Great, folks, and welcome to today's show. We have, in recent weeks, had a little activity going on in the economic development area. We've already talked about some of it, and we have another significant piece to bring to you this morning, and that is the Coffee County Industrial Board, Industrial Development Board, I guess, the formal name now. And we have our guest today is David Bond, who is the chairman of the county board and has been, I guess that's around the first of the year.
Correct.
So he's joined us and will bring us up to date on what's going on at the county level. So David, thanks for joining us. And before we get into the activities of the board, how about telling the folks something about David? Who is David? How did he get here?
Tom, thanks for the opportunity to come on. Tom, I'm retired from the Air Force. I had about 38 years of service as a civilian with the Air Force. Much of that time was out at Arnold Center, and then the rest of the time was either.
You were not a blue suiter?
I was not a blue suiter. I was a green suiter long ago in the Army.
Yeah.
But I was a civilian with the Air Force, and spent most of my career at Arnold, but I also spent time in California at Edwards, and also at the headquarters at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And when I retired, we moved back to Tullahoma, which was home for us, raised our kids here, and then had an opportunity to serve as a retired person, and the industrial board was an opportunity that was offered to me, which I very gladly accepted.
Yeah, yeah. You've been very active at several levels here in Tullahoma and the county, and more we'll probably find out about. Okay, very good. Let's take a short commercial break, and we'll come back and get into the county board.
The glory days. Running to daylight on the gridiron. And chasing a ball with a mind of its own. Cheering the team to victory. And marching to the beat of your own drum. Memories that last a lifetime. But sometimes we're reminded of our glory days in ways we'd rather forget. Get back in the game. The rehab team at Life Care Center of Tullahoma is ready to help you live and play well.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Keith Barnett here at Russell Barnett Ford of Winchester. Check out the 2018 Ford Taurus, yours today for $24,995. That's Russell Barnett Ford on 41A in Winchester, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. And remember, my question is, why buy anywhere else?
It participates.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today with David Bond, who is the chairman of the Coffee County Industrial Development Board, and we want to find out what the board is all about and what they're doing for you. So, David, let's begin that. Introduce our audience to the Coffee County Board.
Well, I've been on the board for 2 years. I'm the chairman for this year, and then I was on the board last year. So the history of the board occurred before I was on the board, but
Right.
I'm somewhat familiar with that. If you go back to the 90s time frame, there were 3 boards in the county. Those boards were brought together, consolidated enough to make the marketing and the recruitment process more effective. And they were brought together and created a consolidated board with the intent that the boards would just be brought together, all the membership joined, and then over time it would shrink down to a 9-member board. We are now at that terminal number. Our board consists of 9 members, and all the members on the board are appointed by the county commission. And so, in the way they typically do that, and that's their process, not ours, but the caucuses for the city of Tullahoma and the city of Manchester and the county caucus each basically nominate names to represent their areas. So we will have 3 members on the board, each from Tullahoma, from Manchester, and from the county, and then the board operates independent of that because we draw our authority from state legislation because we can do things that the elected officials cannot do. But they appoint us and they control us through the appointment and through that operation.
And maybe some money occasionally.
Obviously money, because the county funds our operation, the bulk of which would be the salaries of the paid staff. The 9 members on the board are volunteers, non-paid positions, and but we do have 3 full-time employees. We have an executive director, and then our current executive director has 2 employees that report to her. Okay, so 3 staff, and most of the funding goes to pay the salaries of the staff.
Yeah, I would think so. Well, you should spend some reaching out to prospective companies. How many parks? We know the one we hear most about, most cautious of, is that big one that's on 24, just outside of Manchester.
Right.
But how many parks do you have?
We have 4 right now, and we have the one that you mentioned is our interstate park,
Right.
and then we have the Manchester Park, where Great Lakes Cheese is located, and that's the one where we have probably the most interest right now because of the availability of land and the access to the interstate off that. We have the Joint Park, which sits about halfway between Tullahoma and Manchester, and then we have the Tullahoma Air Park, which is a smaller park which is located at the airport in Tullahoma. And the focus of that park is toward businesses that need access to the runways and to the airport. And the Air Board in Tullahoma works very closely with us on in recruiting businesses for that particular park. But we have those are the 4 parks that we currently have.
What's going on at the airport? Anything in particular these days?
Well, they're very busy. We are blessed in Coffee County to have one of the top airports, small airports in the state, and they've been recognized several times for that.
Yeah.
And we recently had a company come in that's expanded. They are into the electronics of the air business. We're also building some new hangars out there. So that park is pretty aggressive. The airport board is very aggressive at trying to work with those people out there, and so we're very blessed to have that as an asset, which helps recruiting for the whole county, because a lot of our businesses use the Tullahoma Airport to bring their executives in.
Yeah, right. We're particularly gets busy around the time for our summer park.
Well, Bonnaroo's the big one you're probably referring to.
Yeah.
A lot of business there. But let me mention that the folks out in the audience would probably be interested in knowing that the Airport Owners Association is having their annual convention, and so next month we're going to have, September, we're going to have a fly-in. And
This is the
AOPA, that's correct, and we're going to have probably 600 to 800 visitors, airplanes in here, and they're going to be activities on Friday and Saturday night, and I believe that's on the September the 14th and 15th. Does that sound right? Somewhere it's that weekend around September the 14th, whatever weekend that is. And there's going to be a lot of activity there that folks might want to come out and see. There are going to be some competitions of airplanes. There are going to be drones flying on Friday night. There'll be a show, a light show with several hundred drones up in the air on Friday night. And so folks can come out and visit and see the airplanes. But that's a big deal. We are the first location that the AOPA has chosen to come back to for their annual convention, which is a big honor for Coffee County and for Tullahoma.
We apparently took pretty good care of them the first time.
I believe we did. Yeah. We're going to try to do it again.
Okay. 4 parks, and how many businesses does that represent to you that are in your parks?
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know how many we have. The number is, in the 40s, 50s, kind of. It's that kind of number. Yeah. The interstate park is essentially complete. There's no available space in that park. So
I wondered about that.
There, we're looking at growth of those industries, and many of them are expanding. Okay, and most of the expansion that we've had has occurred in that park, or in businesses that are not located in any of the parks, because we also have businesses that are located within the county or within the cities. That are not located in the parks,
right.
And we work with them very closely as well.
Oh yeah.
And in 2017 and 18, we had 9 of our businesses that made significant expansions, and in 2019, we're going to have 9 or 10 more that are making significant expansions.
Right.
Okay, so. We're growing. We're doing well right now.
Yeah, very good. I wanted to talk specific about a couple of those. So you mentioned the Joint Park, which is comes under question every once in a while. It hasn't done very well. The location there, I'm not even sure how many we've got there. 3 maybe, 2 or 3 or 4. That's not. Any particular comment about that operation?
Well, the Joint Park was created, and and power provided for the Joint Park at an unfortunate time in terms of the national economic cycle. And sometime shortly after that park was created there, the nation went into a slump. Yeah. And so there was no real growth going on in the nation, and that's unfortunate, but we've come back now, and so we have 3 or 4 businesses in our Joint Park. We also have a spec building, which was completed a year ago, and that's drawing a lot of interest. We've had a number of businesses that have been in. We have not yet located a business that's going to go in there, but I expect that to happen in the near term, in the foreseeable future. And we also have an area there, a fairly sizable piece of that land that is certified by the Tennessee Economic Development certified site, which means that it's a choice site. It's very good, and we have, in fact, we are talking to a company currently that's interested in that site. So I think you're going to see some activity in that park. Now, I would say that the location of that park would not be conducive to a company that had a lot of truck traffic, because they have to get to the interstate. They've got to travel through Manchester and through school zones and that kind of stuff. So it's
Okay, well, we need to take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and pick up where we leave off.
Barnett here at Russell Barnett Chevrolet GMC in Winchester. Check out the 2019 Chevrolet Impala, up to 19% off original MSRP. That's Russell Barnett Chevrolet GMC on the bypass in Winchester, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. And remember, why buy anywhere else?
It's time for every family and business in Tullahoma to go green and recycle. Tullahoma Public Works makes it simple and easy to recycle. Just place your recyclable materials, paper, plastic, aluminum, and cardboard beside your garbage container on the same day your garbage is picked up. Your recycled materials don't have to be in a fancy container. Recycling is not only the right thing to do, it makes sense. Recycling pays. Paying to bury our garbage costs each of us. Please do your part. Let's go green, Tullahoma, and recycle.
When your family suffers the loss of a loved one, the caring and compassionate staff at Tullahoma Funeral Home and Coffee County Funeral Chapel are standing by to assist you in every way possible. We are proud to support local industry and offer only Batesville caskets. Many funeral homes don't own or operate a crematory. We utilize the only crematory in Coffee County. Your loved one never leaves Coffee County. We can accommodate any need and any budget. Consider our complete pre-need service to remove this burden from your family during their time of grief. Lock in today's low costs and protect from inflation. Tullahoma Funeral Home and Coffee County Funeral Chapel. Our family caring for your family.
We're talking today, folks, with David Bond, who is the chairman of the Coffee County Industrial Development Board, and he's been bringing us up somewhat on the history, and more particularly the activity in recent seasons, years, or months, and we hope to find out a little more insight into what may be coming. So we were talking about your parks, your 4 parks, and we have just been discussing the Joint Industrial Park, which I think you said you now have somebody who's actively interested in it that you're working with. It's been a little slow. The location was isn't perfect for everybody. How do you work? Do you have defined relationships with certain folks around town, which of course is the 2 main cities, and you are tied in very closely with the state, I would gather. The state, what do we call them? The Economic Development.
Yeah, ECD. Right. We do have, and let me say that the board itself, the primary job of the board,
your board,
of the industrial board, right, is to hire an executive director and then oversee the director. So most of the interface work, the recruiting work, is done by the staff, not by the board itself. We as a volunteer board don't have the time to spend hands-on with that kind of thing. But we oversee their activities and participate with them. The folks that we primarily interface with, there are 2 major organizations, and one of them is the state, the ECD, and most of the contacts that we have for recruiting come through the state ECD. they send out inquiries to each of the state, and then we have an opportunity to respond to those queries that we get from the state. So the companies typically come through the state. The other major organization that we interface with is the economic development arm of the TVA. Separate
Don't
from,
hear much about them.
Right. Separate from, most people don't.
They don't have a big PR organization.
Right. Separate from the power part of TVA, they are also funded to do other activities, one of which is economic development. And they are a major player. They are a major player in economic development in the Tennessee Valley. And we were very, very fortunate recently in working with TVA. That TVA let a contract to a company that normally goes out and recruits and does economic development as a support for companies that are looking where they're going to locate. But TVA had them come and do what they called a competitive community audit. And they picked 8 or 9 locations throughout the entire Tennessee Valley, 3 of which were in Tennessee, 1 of which was Coffee County. And we were the only rural county that they came in, and they came in and did an audit for us and looked at how we did business and looked at our strengths, our weaknesses, talked to community people, talked to people from Tullahoma, from Manchester, talked to the political people, and then obviously talked to our board. And then they wrote a report and came back to us and says, okay, these are the things that you need to do in order to improve and to get better at recruiting and developing your operation. It was a real plus for our county to be selected by TVA to come in and perform that activity. And they gave us 9 specific things that we are now working on that we need to do to get better. And 4 of them were immediate, as I recall, and they were 3 of them were an intermediate range and 2 of them were long range. But we're going to have completed the 4 near-term things, the immediate ones, this year.
Yeah.
So,
for example, you got
strategic plan. They came in and says, let me see your strategic plan. I said, well, we don't have a strategic plan. He said, number 1 on the list, you've got to have a strategic plan. And so our staff now they have just completed a course which TVA, which the University of Tennessee offers. It's another connection. They provide the training for our staff, education-wise, and our staff just completed their training course on how you go about developing a strategic plan. And so now they're getting ready to pull the trigger, and we've asked the staff. Our board has assigned them a task. We'd like to have a strategic plan, and we want one completed by the end of the year. So
by the end
they're
of
working
this year.
by the end of this year, and we plan to have that. They also talked about things like conducting training course, and we had TVA came in and conducted a training course for us, for our board, for the political community, for the county representatives, the city representatives, and for others that are involved in the economic development process. And they came in and conducted what they called ECD 101, and that was another of the things that they suggested that we do immediately. Upgrade some of our electronics, and some of our tools that we use, So it was that kind of thing.
So you got the staff busy, huh?
We do.
We're going to run out of time in a minute. Before we do, there are a couple of more recent things that I thought we ought to touch on that have made the local press. TE connectivity, for one. Speak to us about that a little bit. What is that?
TE Connectivity is one of the major companies that we have in the county, and happen to be located inside the city limits of Tullahoma, but they're one of our county businesses, a very important business. It's a firm out of Switzerland, and they just announced an expansion that's going to entail the growth of like 100 positions within at their location in Tullahoma. That's a big expansion. That's a big job.
Yeah.
And they make connectors, electrical connectors. It's their business, and they supply connectors worldwide. Okay. And So they're going to be actually closing a company in California. There were several locations that they could have moved that to. They chose to bring it here. And
very good.
We're very, very honored to that.
Maybe we ought to touch on the other one, Enable Corp.
Naval Corp is a small company. They're in Franklin, and they are expanding, and they chose Tullahoma as their location. They're going to expand. They are a call center for medical services, and so they will have, I assume, nurses or whatever talking on the phone to the insurance companies and that sort of thing.
And that's their specialty is medical, as I recall.
That's correct.
In the medical field.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, it's interesting that Connectivity is a Swiss company. How many foreign companies, you got a number by chance? How many foreign companies are in Tullahoma? Or
I
in
don't
County?
have a number, but it is substantial.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's substantial.
And it's always a bit of a surprise. Well, folks, we have run out of time, so I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut off for a minute, and then we'll wind up.
Russell Barnett Hometown Auto Rental has proudly served your auto rental for over 30 years. Check out this huge selection to choose from. Small car, mid-size car, full-size car, crossover vehicle, SUV, minivan, pickup trucks, 12 and 15 passenger vans. Whether big or small, Russell Barnett Hometown Auto Rental has them all. Stop by our 2 locations to serve you, Tullahoma and in Winchester. And remember, my question is, why rent anywhere else?
So you've been meaning to do something healthy, commune with nature, get outdoors and meet new people. We have the perfect solution. Come hike with us. You can find a Tennessee Trails Association chapter near you, including Clarksville, Columbia Franklin, Highland Rim, Jackson, Knoxville, Oak Ridge, Memphis, Murfreesboro, Nashville, Plateau at Crossville, and Upper Cumberland. We're on the web at TennesseeTrails.org. It's fun, it's stress-free, and it's good for you. See you on the trails.
We've been talking today, folks, with David Bond, who is the chairman of the Coffee County Industrial Development Board, which there's a lot more involved in that title than it might sound like. But I want to thank you for taking time to spend with us, John or David. And is there a little something you'd like to say to the folks out there?
I would. For the last 6 years, I've served on the Tullahoma Area Economic Development Board.
Right.
And then I got a call and asked if I'd be willing to serve on the Industrial Board for Coffee County. And I accepted that position because of how important I believe it is for our county to work together across the city boundaries and across the county boundaries. And we are working very, very hard to do that. Our members are appointed by the caucuses and represent various areas of the county, but when we come together, we are one board, and we look at what's best for the county, irrespective of where the city boundaries are within that county. And we would really solicit support in trying to make that a reality.
Well, again, thanks for joining us, David, and we appreciate the time. And we want to thank you folks for inviting us into your parlor, and we'll see you next time.